right now is Loretta Powers. She's an attorney. She's a contributor to Fox News Radio. Loretta, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on, Mark.
Hey, great to have you. Appreciate that. Not much to talk about these days, huh?
No. I think we're running out of topics, legal issues.
So as an attorney, and I know that you have some experience in looking at issues like this. When I hear, I listened in on that phone conference last night. One of the networks carried it live, and I heard bias all over the place. But my suspicion is that this happens all the time in front of appeals courts and all this, and they've got to take the devil's advocate position with a lot of their questions to try to get to the truth. Is that the case?
You know what they reminded me of? They remind me of judges whom I bet that tell their law clerks, hey, this is how I want to rule. Find me the law to make it happen.
Yeah, So let me get you to carry that a little further forward. So I heard the female judge, and her name escapes me, on that appeals court.
Friedland.
She was very pointed with her comments on, well, exactly why wouldn't these states have standing? Because they have students whose lives have been impacted. I mean, seriously? Where does the law stand on this? To me, not being an attorney, the code seems pretty clear that the president doesn't have to justify to anyone why he decided to restrict aliens from coming into the United States.
I completely agree with you. Look, Justice Friedland, she seemed genuinely interested on the merits of the case. I'll give her that by asking these questions on standing. It's like, honestly, I don't think that the Solicitor General of the state of Washington really did a good job arguing that they did have standing. And legally, I think that this travel ban is lawful. It's not even a ban per se. It's a travel delay. And it really only gives the government time for a proper vetting process. But it does kind of raise the question, will Trump's anti-Muslim comments that he made on the campaign trail kind of come back to bite him in the butt? Because even if the executive order is facially neutral, if there's a discriminatory intent, then that alone makes it unconstitutional because it violates the Establishment Clause.
So to explain to me then, in layman's terms, my issue here is that a lot of these folks who would be prevented from traveling to the U.S. would not be folks that already have green cards, but would be folks who want to come to the United States. We have to put them through a process before they can come here. If they're not citizens, in my opinion, they're not covered by the Constitution. So why is it that they have rights under the Establishment Clause?
Well, the Establishment Clause is just basically the government cannot enact any law or rule that violates a person's freedom to establish religion. So it's not necessarily those travelers. It's just religion on general in the First Amendment, which to me sounds very, very convoluted. It sounds like one of those justices that are like, hey, this is how I want to rule. Please find me the way to do it, no matter how much we have to stretch the Constitution to make it so.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I still don't quite understand how they could use that, extend those rights, those established under our Constitution for our citizens to people who aren't our citizens yet.
Right, and I don't mean to sound callous or anything, but it really doesn't matter what this Ninth Circuit does, because the losing side is going to appeal it anyway, and it's really going to depend on the makeup of the Supreme Court and whether or not Neil Gorsuch is sitting on that bench.
Yeah, that's true, but it does matter if it gets to the court and it's a 4-4 tie, because doesn't it revert to the lower court decision? Wouldn't that stand then?
It does. And then at that point, Donald Trump is just going to have to redraft his executive order, this time a little bit smarter, and knowing that he could bend the rules without breaking them.
Yeah.
Which is what I tell my clients on tax day. You could bend the rules, just don't break them.
Yeah, don't break them. Well, let's hope that's what they're working on. I tell you, Loretta, the other question I wanted to talk to you about today was this Supreme Court case. The court in March is going to hear this issue of the transgender teen in Virginia. What are the stakes here?
Yeah, so a young transgendered man sued the school board that barred him from using the men's restroom because it isn't his biological sex. And the Fourth Circuit sided with this young man, citing the Obama administration argument that the policy violates Title IX, which bars sex discrimination. So at the end of the day, Mark, the question is transgender discrimination the same thing as gender discrimination? And you know what? This case is set for March 28th. Neil Gorsuch will probably not be on the bench at that point, so the Fourth Circuit ruling is going to remain intact. However, this issue, there's going to be a second bite at the apple, so to say, because in North Carolina, they have their own court case that's working its way through the appeals process.
Yeah, that's true. Now, just so I'm clear about this, you referred to him as a transgendered young man, but he's actually a girl who hasn't had sex reassignment surgery yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
and
all right.
They also offered him the compromise of having just a single stall, too, which, I mean, that would be great. You know, I'm working up the career ladder, so I could have one of those.
Yeah. We had a case similar to that here in the St. Louis area a year or two ago, where the individual was offered their own a key to one of the staff bathrooms that they could go in and lock the door and do whatever they needed to do and leave, and that wasn't good enough. They were only going to be happy if they could use the bathroom of the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's
exactly
at stake here.
The case is.
Interesting. So, I'm thinking it's February 8th. That's a month and a half from now. You don't think Gorsuch gets confirmed before then?
No, he's probably going to get confirmed in May.
Wow, that seems like a long time.
I know.
Interesting. Loretta Powers, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Have a great one.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. Loretta Powers, attorney. You've heard her on Fox News Radio all the time, and she's got a legal talk show that she does discussing these issues as well. And I think her Twitter handle is @LorettaPowersLaw if you want to follow her. Fascinating subject discussions there. Loretta was being a little politically correct, in my opinion, referring to this as a transgender young man who wants to use the girls' restroom, and this school district wouldn't allow him, or wants to use the boys' restroom. It's a girl who wants to use the boys' restroom, not the other way around. I'm just sorry. You got to go by what the plumbing says. That's just kind of where I am on that. So just trying to clear that up. Let me get